Welcome to the Emergent Human, where we explore optimizing health, embodied spirituality, and post-conventional living. I'm Michael Ostrolenk, a therapist, coach, and educator, and I'm your host. Another shout out to Dr. Dan Stickler and Micah Hamilton for the Perion Center for Human Potential, my partners along with Coach Kurt and Megan in co-leading the Perion Zoe Mastermind Group called the Arete Collective. Today's show is brought to you by Cosper Scafidi, an amazing body worker in the Northern Virginia area who has integrated different somatic practices into his work. To learn more about Cosper, you can visit his website at cosperscafidi.com. Today's guest is Carri Bailey. Carri is a certified CannaDNA endocannabinoid coach and cannabis advocate. She studied biological sciences at Rowan College and has a background in holistic health. Epigenetics and endocannabinoid system became her focus after genetic testing revealed her own rare genetic makeup. Hello, Carri.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining. And I do want to point out that I've been actually working with Carri. I hired her to be my epigenetics coach, and I have learned a lot about cannabis, and I'm looking forward to diving into this conversation. But before we talk about the actual plant and the health and wellness benefits of it, tell us a little bit about your background, including your advocacy for cannabis.
I've been a cannabis advocate for about 30 years. I had something called Kawasaki's disease as a child, and it left me with a lot of inflammation, arthritis, and migraine headaches. So I struggled through that with most of my childhood. And once I was in college, I had a genius professor for anatomy, and he knew that I was struggling, and he suggested trying cannabis for my migraines. And at that point, I had tried so many different medications, and I didn't know at that point that my cytochrome made it very difficult for me to actually use synthetic medications, which is why they weren't working for me. So I took his advice, and the next migraine I had, I used cannabis, and I found just immediate relief. And I thought, okay, cannabis is my medicine. Okay. And from that point on, I mean, it certainly was not an easy path with prohibition. It's something that I hid for most of my life. And it's kind of fun now to, be out there and talking about it as an expert. But cannabis has helped me, and it has helped many people that I've worked with. I've worked with children with cancer and their parents, elderly, stroke victims. I mean, the list goes on over the 30 years. But mostly, I just enjoy being able to help people and help people find that wellness from something so simple as a plant that grows from the ground.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's a plant that just grows from the ground, and it has so many benefits to the human system. Can you tell us a little bit more about your advocacy, though? Because presently there's a lot of states that have legalized it, whether for recreational purposes or medical purposes. Not every state, but we've come far since the war on drugs criminalized marijuana. Tell us a little bit about your advocacy and how you see where we are and where we're heading.
Well, I'm very excited to see that we're opening up even the farming industry. We're going to be allowing animals to consume hemp again, which will put those cannabinoids back into our food chain, which should have amazing health benefits for people, because after 40 years, 50 years of prohibition, we see a lot of deficiencies among the endocannabinoid system. And for most of history, animals consumed hemp, and then we consumed either the animals or the meat, and then we had that passive cannabinoids. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see the industry opening up with products that are tested and clean. Prior to this, we did not have that. And, it's always a concern. Cannabis is a bioaccumulator, which means if it's grown in toxic soil, it becomes a toxic plant. And then, you have people that are using cannabis for wellness, but all of the chemicals that plant has gathered from the soil are having an opposite effect on your endocannabinoid system, those chemicals will block your signaling. So you're not going to get that true wellness. So for the most part, I go out and tell people all these things. I've met with different food industry people within the New Jersey community. That's where I'm from. We just legalized here. We do not have a full legal market up and running yet. I am a medical patient, so I'm able to buy cannabis in New Jersey. And, I just try to make people aware of the different terpenoids and the terpenes and what the difference is between the two, and what terpenes would be best for them. This is why I came to find the CannaDNA whilst doing all of the research for myself. Just I have this amazing ability that I do not test positive for any THC metabolites. So that led me down the genetics road because I just needed to know why. And through all of that, I've been able to, take this CannaDNA test and look at how people process cannabinoids within their cytochrome. We can look at the enzyme action that degrades the endocannabinoid system. And ultimately, I'm out there preaching to people that THC is not the only cannabinoid, that, we need to have a symphony of cannabinoids to have a properly functioning endocannabinoid system. And also, I'm really out there preaching all of the nutritional things that you can do. Endocannabinoids are made within our own system. We have an endocannabinoid system, not because a plant exists, but because our body makes endocannabinoids, meaning cannabinoids coming from inside of our body. And with the proper nutrition, you can really help to boost and balance your own endocannabinoid system. And then any of the cannabinoids you're taking in, whether it be a THC, a CBD, a CBG, a CBN, a THCV, the list goes on, you're using them and they are optimizing your wellness. They're not just filling in for a deficiency.
Actually, that's a great segue, because I think a lot of people, and probably less today than maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, think about marijuana, cannabis, and they think about THC and getting high. But you just named quite a few different parts of the plant, which are not, psychoactive in that way, but offer a lot of different health and wellness benefits. Would you mind breaking down different pieces of the plant and how they're used and what the research is showing for their use these days?
Sure. Well, within cannabis, let me just back up just a second and give a little bit of background. When you grow
Please.
a seed for a cannabis, it grows into a plant that will either be rich in THC or CBD, and more recently we have genetics for plants that are rich in CBG. So a THC plant is going to have mostly THC, and the higher the THC level, the lower all of those minor cannabinoids. Minor cannabinoids are your CBN, your THCV, your CBC. Those are found in very small quantities within a THC plant. And in a CBD plant, it's just you have a very high CBD level, very low THC level. The higher the CBD, the lower the THC is. So industrial hemp standards within this country require that any CBD that's sold has less than 0.3% THC, which is an arbitrary number, and farmers all over the place get very angry because it's so hard to grow CBD at a 0.3%, because in general, your terpenes and your cannabinoids will be affected by the weather, by pests, by all sorts of things outside. So it's just an arbitrary number, but that's the number we have to stay under. So that's the background of the plant. Mm-hmm. So when we take the THC plant, or actually, most of our minor cannabinoids that we have right now on the market are really hemp derived. They're coming from a CBD hemp plant. One of the most exciting, I think, is THCV. It's one of the newer on the market. It has an amazing ability in small amounts to act as an antagonist at the CB1. And that's great for people who have too many cannabinoid receptors. And I'm not a doctor, so I can't get into the conditions that would lead to, but they're pretty serious. And those are the folks that you see very sick on a video on YouTube, maybe with Parkinson's or something. And then they can smoke a joint and it calms that down. So that's just interacting with those CB1 receptors.
Interesting.
But I'm sorry, did you?
No, I just said interesting.
Okay. So if you have a higher dose of just a THCV, it will actually, and especially when there is no presence of THC, not normal THC, and you just take the THCV, it acts as almost like a stimulant. So it kind of wakes your brain up, whereas we think of THC as kind of dulling your senses. THCV awakens your senses. So there's lots of people who, with different attention issues, folks that need to focus more are finding great relief with THCV. We have a lot of athletes that are using it. And it's really amazing. And I think one of the cooler nutritional aspects is that it will increase the sensitivity of your leptin and your insulin receptors. So
wow.
A lot of people see improved body composition, a natural weight loss that's associated with the THCV, which is really cool. My next favorite cannabinoid is CBN. CBN promotes bone growth, which is awesome. And it also is an incredible sleep aid. A lot of people think THC is what we need and to go to sleep, but in general, THC will be more of it interrupts your REM sleep. So most people who use THC will tell you, yeah, I don't dream. And I certainly found that to be the case for me. When I was exploring all of the sleep epigenetics, I thought, oh, heck, I'm a champ at sleep. And then after I got done all of the coursework, I thought, okay, no, I don't sleep well. So I really had to dive into what I could change within myself and within my cannabinoid consumption in order to be able to get that so important REM sleep so that I can wake up feeling refreshed and, complete my normal cycle of sleep. So CBN really helps me with that. I can take that an hour before I go to bed and I have a nice restful sleep. I have heard through a few other coaches that they said that they recorded their sleep really well with their rings and all the technology. I don't have any of that, so I can't compare that, but I thought that sounded really great. And let's see, we have CBG. You can actually find strains of hemp. Let's see, Desert Snow is one of the names of one of the strains that's a high CBG. CBG is really interesting because it will actually engage with your NSAID receptors. So it's a fabulous choice to switch out those over-the-counter pain relievers. And, you can get that relief from CBG, and it's just much more gentle on your system. CBG also helps promote bone growth as well, which is excellent. A lot of people report it healing their gut and helping with weight loss as well. So CBG is certainly one to take advantage of. I keep a sublingual 500 milligram spray of CBG in my medicine cabinet, and that's what we use instead of, over-the-counter pain relievers. That's what we do here. Let's see, we have CBC is another excellent and up and coming. Not many people have heard about CBC. but they're doing some amazing research within the autism world, within the mental health world, for CBC. And I have to say, it certainly gives you a nice, even mood boost. And all of these cannabinoids are anti-inflammatory. I don't mention that because it's like every single one of them is anti-inflammatory, and so it's kind of a given. So add that into all of them. But CBC is great, and they've actually found that it's anti-MRSA, which is a real neat thing to look into. Yeah, especially with all the antibiotic resistant stuff we have going on right now. I'm anxious to continue to hear about the research there. So if you get a chance to try CBC, give it a whirl. I love it. Let's see. And then there's some newer ones that just came out. I just got a bottle of CBDV. Again, excellent research coming out of the autism community with the CBDV. People are reporting, more social engagement, less stimming. So, keep an eye out for all of that research. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't get into what the cannabinoids fix. I can, however, tell you that you have cannabinoid receptors on every cell of your body. They are in your brain, they're on your organs, they are on your immune system, they're everywhere. So when our body, depending on the amount of an enzyme called FAAH, that is the enzyme that degrades our endocannabinoid system. And when we look at your genetics, we can see, okay, you have a lot of this enzyme, or you don't have a lot. And then we can use that to judge the level of endocannabinoids that your body naturally has on hand. And it's just it's very interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting off on a tangent.
No, that's awesome. So 2 questions for you. And I definitely want you to go down the path of like, how do you actually work with a client to help them determine what is appropriate for them?
Okay.
But before we get there, I think you've already touched upon this earlier, and I would like you to touch upon it again. The quality of the products themselves is really important. Can you highlight that? Because I could imagine people could listen to this and go, oh my God, yeah, these are great, like CBN or CBD or whatever it is, and then go online or to a store and buy crap.
Yes. The first thing you want to look for is a COA, and that is a certificate of analysis. That is going to give you your lab tests, your lab results. They should be, when you pull those lab results up, you should be seeing a breakdown of the cannabinoids that are in that product. You should see how the product tested for pesticides, molds, heavy metals, especially within the CBD and hemp community. Often you can even find out specifically what terpenes were within the product. And just to emphasize again why this is so important, because back in the day, there was no testing. This is what you got, this is what you had. And sadly, I certainly, when I started learning about all of this and I looked around within my own community of my own friends, I thought, well, heck, if THC and cannabis makes you so healthy, then why isn't everybody around me super healthy? Like, why are these people struggling? Why are they unwell? And at the most basic level, if you are using cannabis that has tons of synthetic fertilizers, was grown in toxic soil, you're just putting all of those chemicals into your body, and they'll have a negative effect on your endocannabinoid system, because your endocannabinoid system is so important between your endocannabinoids and the rest of your body. Your endocannabinoid system is kind of like the internet of your body. And I like to say it's like the internet, because if you think about it, the internet's involved in everything. And when it's not working, nothing works right. So, the endocannabinoid system is so intrinsically involved in all of your biological functions that if you are interfering with your endocannabinoid signaling, hey, we have some inflammation in, I don't know, in an organ, and that doesn't get to where it's supposed to go, then that inflammation gets worse. And as inflammation progresses, we know that that can be problematic for our health. So we need to have clear communication between our endocannabinoid system and all of our other biologic process. And the best thing that you can do is please eat organic food, stay away from processed sugar, stay away from processed foods, eat raw carrots and raw celery. Those two particular vegetables will help tone your endocannabinoid system. So they're just amazing, and it's like 99 cents, and it really makes such a big difference. Also, balancing your gut is something else that is very helpful for your endocannabinoid system. And again, your gut, you can get dysbiosis from having all of those chemicals within your system. So right. I always advocate for as toxin-free living as possible. I live in New Jersey, so that is not always super easy, but that is my goal. So, looking for those testings on the bottles, if you're making your own oils, then, buy cannabis flower or CBD flower that has been tested by an accredited lab.
Nice. Thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned celery and carrots, because I was just going to ask you to mention that. That's awesome. So I was fortunate because I know you through Perionzoids Epigenetics Academy. So I could just reach out to you, and we've had some really good conversations, and I've learned a lot from you. But if someone's listening to this and like, okay, this is great. How do I actually have my genetics read? And how do I know how I process various aspects of the plant? How do I know what plant I should be using for what purposes for health and wellness? Walk us through a new client coming through your process, Carri.
Okay, the easiest way to reach out to me is through my email, which is carribailey@yahoo.com. I also have a website, carribailey.com. Once I meet my new client and we discuss what their goals are, some of my clients are patients who have been using THC for a very long time. And, unfortunately, when you use THC and you're not balancing your other cannabinoids with it, and you have obviously a deficiency within your endocannabinoid system, most people do. Their biggest complaint is that THC doesn't work. It has no effect on them. So with those folks, I try to steer them away from the THC, and I show them genetically what we're looking at as far as their endocannabinoid system at a genetic level. There's so much that comes into play from stress and diet and long-term use that I have to figure in. But I just try to guide them to other cannabinoids that will be helpful. Dietary changes, we are so deficient in omega-3s in our society, and omega-3s are the cofactor, the precursor of our body's endocannabinoids that we make. So if you're not getting those omega-3s, those DHA, those EPA, then you're going to be deficient in your endocannabinoids. And I just want to mention, when I say, deficient in endocannabinoids, your endocannabinoid system modulates your sleep, your pain, your memory, your learning, inflammation, hunger, energy, your temperature, your mood, just everything. So, it's, if you want to feel better, get those omega-3s, eat that fish, please. Carrots. That's what I want everyone to have. But I also have clients who are brand new to the world of cannabis, and they read about all of these wonderful health effects, and they think, well, I smoked a little pot in high school. Like, where do I even start? And, I take them by the hand too, and we go over all of their genetics, and we look at their natural dopamine levels. We look at the density of their cannabinoid receptors. We look, again, like I mentioned previously, at their FAAH enzyme.
Yeah.
And from that point, I help with them. We develop a plan, and I just suggest, I think everyone can benefit from a full spectrum CBD. I kind of call that like your cannabinoid multivitamin, because it's going to just cover all of your bases and balance your body. And depending on, what afflictions each individual client is suffering, we can look at how many milligrams we're going to need. Can they take an edible? Will that even be effective based on their cytochrome? And I just work with them to put together a nice little easy program that they can get started with. And I always incorporate those important epigenetic things, like getting out in the sunlight in the morning and getting that early morning sun to, reset your suprachiasmatic nucleus, all of those important things. Because that plays such a role, even again, into your endocannabinoid system. And when you can get that trifecta of homeostasis, where, your brain is good, your endocannabinoid system is good, and your gut is good, like that's where thriving happens.
I love that. And let me encourage people to really look into this. And generally speaking, I think it's part of the wave of the future in terms of human health and well-being and human optimization, and more particularly work with Carri.
Thank you.
I've been benefiting greatly from doing so. Can you tell us one more time your website?
It's Carri Bailey, CarriBailey.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Carri. This has been fascinating. Appreciate your time.
Oh, it's been wonderful. I love to talk about cannabis. So everyone reach out to me. We'll have tons of conversations about cannabis. It's fun.
Oh, and speaking of that, let me encourage you to plug your great Facebook group too.
Oh, okay. I have a private group, Folium Epigenetics. I also have a public group. It's Carri Bailey Epigenetic Coach. So if you email me, I can send you the link for the private group on Facebook. Facebook is so weird about CBD and cannabis. Yeah. So I'm kind of like hidden, but I put tons of research out there. I will take as much time to educate as I can, because I feel like it's so important, and so much out there, it's outdated.
Yeah, and let me encourage people to follow up with you. I track your daily postings, and if you're interested in the science that supports everything that Carri is talking about today, it's a great resource. So thank you for doing that for the public education.
Oh, no problem.
And let me encourage folks to check out your website and follow up with you. Thank you, Carri.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.